So as we head into the offseason, I think it's been very interesting to see what Packers GM Brian Gutekunst has had to say about the state of the team, the state of the roster, and where he sees the Packers going in 2025. And we saw a lot of it in the initial press conference when the season ended. But then I want to show you this quote from earlier today. It was put out on a video on the Packers website and on here on YouTube, Total Packers, Brian Gutekunst one-on-one. And Brian Gutekunst talks a little bit about free agency and the potential there for the Packers. And if there were guys out there, how Brian Gutekunst would feel, which I find interesting. So here it is. It says, quote, "We'll kind of see what this year brings. Not every year is there a Xavier McKinney or Josh Jacobs available. Wish there were. But certainly if there are players like those two guys that are out there." And then in the video, these two words got muffled together. I slowed it down at 0.5 speed, could not tell what he said. And then he said, "Pursue them aggressively because there's just not that many in the National Football League that can compete at a high level like those guys can." And I was upset that those words got mushed together because I didn't know what he was saying about pursue them aggressively. But then at the end, he said this, which I think gives us an idea of what he meant. He said, "Certainly we will if those guys are out there." So from that, it sounds to me like if the right guys are out there, Brian Gutekunst is willing to be aggressive to acquire them. And I think we saw the Packers be aggressive last year with Aaron Jones ended up leaving. He brings in Josh Jacobs, brings in Xavier McKinney when I think last year's safety was probably the Packers' biggest need. And so now when we look at this Packers roster, in my mind, edge rusher is the biggest need. The offense is a top 10 offense. The defense is a top 10 defense. And the one area where there was just a lack of consistency, or one of the areas where there was the biggest lack of consistency, was in the edge rusher room. And so that's where I'm hoping the Packers are very aggressive when it comes to edge rusher. Whether that's in the draft, I wouldn't mind getting a guy, a veteran, who's already done it. And I was just curious because I haven't done any videos, about what kind of players the Packers should pursue in free agency. I'm going to do some more research before I have guys that I'm, sold on. But just before this video, I was looking up, top free agents in 2025. And there's a list that PFF put out. And the top edge rusher on this list from PFF is Khalil Mack, who is going to be a free agent. And he is currently 33 years old. And lots of times, that's pretty old for an NFL player. He's about to turn 34. The thing is, when you look at his production, he's still playing at a pretty elite level. He played in 668 snaps. PFF gave him a 90.2 grade, which is basically elite. He had 52 pressures and 9 sacks. So he had 18 sacks a year prior, 9 sacks the following year. So not quite as productive in the sack category. He did have a few hundred less snaps. But someone like that is interesting. Maybe he's a little bit on the old side. But the Packers have a ton of cap space. Gutekunst sounds pretty adamant that if there's someone out there, the Packers will pursue them. And considering the edge rusher room is the weakest unit, that could be the area where it makes the most sense. I know tons of people have talked about Max Crosby. Maybe that could happen. And I talked about it a little bit in one of the Q&As here on the channel. And I wouldn't mind the Packers making some kind of big splash move like that to acquire a player. I think for a couple of years, we saw them trade away Devontae, trade away Aaron Rodgers to get that draft capital, get those first-round picks, second-round picks. And now I think that it could be time to make a big move like that. So I think we will see a lot go down this offseason. We saw some go down last year with Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, and I feel like it's going to be similar this year. And when you look at the Packers cap space, currently $37.15 million in cap space per over the cap. And I know for years and years, I started this channel back in 2020, and it felt like from like 2020, 21, 22, probably a little better last year, but those first few years, every single year the Packers were were already over the cap, and they had to, do a lot of maneuvering or restructuring just to, get to where they had to be for the year. And now to start, $37 million under the cap, $37 million in space. The Packers have a lot more opportunity to do a lot of different things, and that's without even doing any kind of restructures or, messing with contracts where you can create tens of millions of dollars more in cap space. So if the Packers want to, they can. It sounds like they will if they have someone they really like. So that should be something to watch this offseason. And I'll be out with more videos, and I'll touch on specific guys I want, things like that. But I thought that was interesting from Gutekunst. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below. Turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any Packers news. And I'll see you guys next time.